Hi, happy 4th of July. I thought we'd do a dish that's got red, white, and blue in it. So follow along. It's a super easy recipe that anyone can do. I'm going to start out with some grape tomatoes. You can use plum tomatoes, you can use Roma tomatoes, you can use any kind you want. But one tip I have for when you're buying tomatoes is that you don't want to refrigerate tomatoes after you purchase them. They're one of the fruits. We call it a vegetable, but technically it's a fruit that you leave on the counter. And this dish is much better when it's not cold. So one cute tip like that. All right, so these are the tomatoes. You always want to use a serrated knife when you're cutting tomatoes. Otherwise, you just are wearing tomato juice everywhere, so that's not always great. They have knives that are specifically for tomatoes, but you don't really need to purchase them. Really, the knives you really need to buy would be a serrated knife, a chef's knife, and then a paring knife, something like this. These are really the only knives that you really need to have in your kitchen. But buy high quality ones, because otherwise you cut yourself, and then it's not a pleasure to cook, although you are going to be quite red. All right, so that's the tomatoes right here. I'm going to set that aside, and then we're going to use a purple onion. So a lot of times I see people cutting onions, and I'm like going, oh gosh, let me get in there and do that for you. And the chefs in the kitchen are always laughing at me because I am so painfully slow when I'm cutting an onion. But there's all kinds of ways that you can do it. I am just going to use a portion of the onion right here, and I'm not going to use as much as the recipe calls for because we're going to eat it right now. So if I would make it a day early, then the onion would kind of calm down and it wouldn't be so oniony. So that's kind of a tip. Other things that you can do is you can dice it in advance. I'm just doing this just for fun, really just for color and things like that, because we don't want to taste onions. So I'm just going to you can soak the onion in cold water and just put it in the refrigerator, cover it really, really well, drain the water off the next day, and then you've got an onion that is not quite intense. So I'm just going to add that because I know we've got a lot of people who are waiting to taste this dish, so we'll go like that. All right, so then I've got a couple of fresh herbs in front of me, and we always want to do fresh herbs when we're doing this salad. You wouldn't want to do dried parsley. So this is Italian parsley, so versus curly parsley. This is easier to deal with, and I kind of think of a curly parsley almost as a garnish more than what you would put into a dish. So I'm just going to roll this up like this, just so it's easier to cut. Fingers always back. And I don't want to cut it too much. And notice I did not take the stems off of this parsley because life is too short. And I think if someone thinks that they have to take the stems out, then they wouldn't do the dish. It's like, oh, I don't have time to do that. But you know, from start to finish, we can be done with this recipe in about 4 minutes, if I kind of picked up the pace a little bit. All right, so this is our dish again. Let me put the parsley right in there. And then the next fresh ingredient is going to be fresh basil. And I hope you got basil growing in your garden. If not, it's not too late. Don't start from seed because we will all be gone by the time that seed comes to a plant. So buy a beautiful plant. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, all kinds of places, Lowe's, all of these places have got basil. I'm putting the larger leaves down first. I'm going to put, this is the largest one, I'm going to put that down first. And then I'm just going to roll it up really tight, almost like a cigar. And then again, you're hiding your fingers. You want to keep the tip of the knife down, like this. And this is called chiffonade. We're just going to add that to the dish, just like that. And you could keep adding fresh basil if you wanted to. All right. Then I'm going to add a little bit of champagne vinegar and a little bit of olive oil. And I really mean a little bit, because otherwise the recipe can get a little bit high in calories. All right, so now this is the key, and this is feta cheese, and I'm kind of picky about the feta cheese, so please don't buy crumbled feta cheese, and the reason is because they have an anti-caking agent added to the cheese to keep it crumbled, and we want to keep it nice and fresh and lively. So I'm just going to drain the cheese right here like this and take that brine out. Use my knife like this. I'm going to make a slice here. So I really don't want crumbled feta cheese. I really want pieces of feta cheese in this salad. Just like that. And notice I'm going to add it last. This is pepper. This is a little bit of salt. Here, stir this. Like this. And I haven't added the feta cheese yet. And the reason is because I don't want to crumble the feta cheese. I really want it to be whole pieces of feta cheese. The recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup. and the recipe serves 6 people, so it's under 100 calories. So I'm going to kind of eye 3/4 of a cup here. That's a generous 3/4 of a cup, but it is, 4th of July. All right, so then we have some red and we have some white, so our next ingredient needs to be blue. And we just really couldn't think of anything blue to put, so we're doing chips. So blue corn chips, just like this here, and generous serving here of the salad. And we've got red, white, and blue, so enjoy.